by Vice Chair Senator Tom Daschle.
Thank you all. I join Madeleine and Barbara and Sherry in welcoming all of you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the 2017 recipient of the Madeleine K. Albright Grant, Women Act for Living Together, or WALT. This year's awardee is an excellent example of today's theme of inspiring the next generation of women in political life. By way of background, the Central African Republic, where WALT works, is a nation of nearly 5 million people at the landlocked geographic center of the African continent, surrounded by countries that unfortunately have seen too much war. Since independence, attempts to build democratic institutions have been repeatedly cut short by coups and rebellions. Most recently, a civil war stirred up ethnic and religious hatred that had not existed before. The recent conflict, which peaked in 2014, has cost the lives of over 6,000 civilians and displaced over 1 million Central Africans. The peaceful elections of 2015 ushered in a new constitution and elected government, giving citizens, for the first time in a long time, reasons for hope. The new progressive gender parity law expands leadership roles available to Central African women. And as you will hear, WALT is helping them seize this important new opportunity. This is truly game-changing work in a country that sorely needs it and is now ready for it. Angeline Kaïgama, the Secretary General of WALT, will accept the award on its behalf. She is a woman of many accomplishments, including being a general manager of an engineering company that constructs buildings, roads, and bridges in the Central African Republic. Not only does she play a leadership role in WALT, she also leads a second women's advocacy and development group that promotes reconciliation in conflict-stricken areas of the country. We are very, very grateful to her for her leadership and that she's agreed to make the long trip from her country to ours. Please join me in watching a short video about the work of WALT first, followed by the remarks of Angeline Kaïgama.
Notre histoire politique a été émaillée d'instabilités qui ont profondément marqué les populations en général. Ça fait plus de 20 ans que nous vivons vraiment dans les conflits et des crises perpétuelles. La population centrafricaine en général et les femmes centrafricaines en particulier ont pris le risque de leur vie pour exiger la tenue des élections. Donc il y a davantage d'implication politique dans la vision du rôle que les femmes peuvent jouer dans leur pays et dans leur communauté.
La femme a payé le prix et ça a créé en nous, ça a suscité en nous un peu de révolte, pas un peu, assez de révolte, de telle sorte que nous nous sommes dit pourquoi ne pas oser.
C'est que depuis cette crise, on s'est donné cet objectif, ça va changer. WALT, c'est une famille. Nous assurons des avenues meilleures pour une femme centrafricaine, à l'aider à se frayer cette route qui est la sienne dans la société, qui est sienne dans son pays.
Ce groupe m'a d'avoir confiance en moi-même. Je vois la façon de faire de cette dame-là. Elles sont actives, elles veulent comprendre. L'éducation, c'est la base de leur réussite. L'éducation, c'est la fondation même d'un leader. Moi, j'ai voulu être une femme en tenue pour commander. C'était ça, pour être leader.
On trouve des femmes leaders dans tous les milieux et de tous les âges, et qu'elles peuvent donc s'inspirer de ces modèles des diverses femmes leaders.
C'est la femme, mieux que toute autre personne, qui peut défendre la femme, qui peut valoriser la femme. C'est vrai que parfois, on arrive à un niveau où tout devient noir, mais on se dit qu'importe la durée de la nuit, le jour va apparaître. Donc on reste, on change peut-être de stratégie, on adapte au contexte, mais on fonce toujours.
Secretary Madeleine Albright, Honorable Lady Magba, Honorable guests, it is a great pleasure for me to be with you today and to accept, on behalf of Women Act for Living Together, or WALT, the prestigious Madeleine K. Albright Grant. As you know, I come to you from the Central African Republic, where the official language is French. I will make an effort today to speak to you in English so that we can understand each other better. A few years ago, I was personally and strongly impacted by a terrible event at the peak of the crisis in my country. A woman flying the armed groups that occupied Bangui hid in my home. She was physically handicapped, was heavily pregnant, and heavy rains were pouring down. She went into labor and we could not get to the hospital. So I had to deliver her baby. I was able to save the woman, but the child died 2 days later. It was a painful experience that reinforced my conviction that women must work to defend their dignity and act so that such situations never happen again. WALT understood from the outset that the crises in our country were caused by poor governance. This resulted in many evils. The greatest of these is the marginalization of women and girls from political decision-making process. For example, only 8% of parliamentary members and 13% of mayors are women. We involve women in the peace process, reconciliation, and the promoting of democratic governance. These women proved that Christians and Muslims could live in harmony in a space that they have built together and in which they share everything, Central African Republic. In one remarkable instance, we succeed in creating a peace committee in the town called Name. This group of men and women community leaders build social cohesion and awareness among the population. As a result, despite several attempts by armed groups to come into the community, recruit the youth, and pillage resources, the population refused to yield and pushed them to back multiple times. The Madeleine Albright Grant will build young women's political leadership skills in the high schools and university. It will create and run young women's leaders clubs that will expand student political activity. They will be supported by women parliamentarians, politicians, and community activists. In addition, WALT will create a toolkit on political leadership and radio discussions among young women. The project will include all ethnic, religious, political, and minority groups. These young female leaders will, in the very short terms, massively mobilize women to participate actively in political parties. They will ensure that at least 35% of those elected or nominated to office are women as prescribed by the law of gender equality. We believe in the Central African woman. We know her drive for action, her ability to mobilize in the face of the social problem. Her commitment and her attitude will determine the altitudes to which she will rise in the future within the decision-making institutions of the country, because the future cannot be achieved without her. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Please travel safely and enjoy your day.